And I'll say good day to you this day of your time. After the transmissions we have delivered for the past 40 years of your time, we now begin a new chapter, having reached the end of one cycle and the beginning of another. This new chapter will entail a different approach to the delivery of information that we provide for you, all falling under the banner of Countdown to Contact, Year 1 for this, your year of 2024. We will say Happy New Year to you all, and thus we will begin another part of the journey together, if you wish. For this year, each subsequent transmission will be titled Countdown to Contact Year 1, Interstellar Alliance Social Experiment. For the first month, next month, it will be Step 1. This Interstellar Alliance Social Experiment, Step 1, and the subsequent steps in the following months that will be delivered intermittently, will be all about providing you with exercises and actions that you can take that will align you more clearly with the vibrational frequency of the Interstellar Alliance as preparation for the idea of open contact. These steps, this social experiment, will involve your willingness to take certain actions that we will describe that will be challenging for some of you to apply into your society. This doesn't mean that you have to do what we will suggest, but if you are willing to take the steps that we will outline, it will bring you into closer vibrational connection with the idea of open contact and the idea of the frequency of the Interstellar Alliance. In this particular transmission, we are simply preparing you to take these steps by announcing them and letting you know that we will be providing this information in the next transmission and the subsequent upcoming transmissions thereafter. Each of these steps will be a challenging introduction, a challenging series of actions for you to take in your society that in many cases may be asking you to go beyond what are typical bounds in your society, to reveal yourselves as aligned with the idea of an interstellar alliance. Again, none of you have to do this, but your willingness to do so will make you more aligned with the interstellar alliance, and the probability will increase of open contact for you. We understand that this can be challenging in your society, for many of the suggestions will be contrary to what you are used to doing. None of them will be breaking your laws, but they will allow you to take a stand. They will allow you to be bolder in your outward expression of your alignment, and they will each get more and more challenging relative to the norms of your society. But this is important now in this new cycle, this countdown to contact, year 1, for you to step up the game, as you say, and in your language, walk the talk, as you say, that will allow you bit by bit, step by step, to interject into your society the idea, the notion, and the consciousness of the existence of the Interstellar Alliance, and how you, in your willingness to follow these suggestions, will allow yourselves to become essentially a citizen of the Interstellar Alliance over time, over all the steps that we will suggest. Again, you have free will. There is nothing that forces you to take any of the actions we will suggest, but we will again tell you that should you be willing to do so, it will align your frequency more and more with the experience of open contact, and even more specifically with the vibration of the Interstellar Alliance, making it more and more probable on your planet for awareness to open up to our existence, the existence of other dimensions, by allowing yourselves to take the actions we will suggest that can, over time, begin to create a movement that will transform your society into one more capable of experiencing interaction with extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional, and spiritual beings of all kinds. So we will begin this cycle in this transmission with this announcement, which begins the preparation so that you have a month to prepare yourselves to decide whether or not you are going to be willing to take these actions as we deliver them intermittently from month to month. And again, the first transmission of these steps will be titled The Interstellar Alliance Social Experiment Step 1, all under the banner of Countdown to Contact Year 1 in your year of 2024. This will all accelerate in the subsequent years thereafter for 3 years, and thus leading up to the probability of a contact event that can change many things upon your planet. So this transmission is simply to announce and alert you to the upcoming changes, to the new cycle of delivery of information. Much of the information we have delivered in previous transmissions will now focus in on your understanding of the formula, how metaphysics actually functions, along with the suggested actions that will be coming in the subsequent upcoming months, and altogether your understanding deepening of metaphysical concepts and the actions you will take if you are willing to follow our suggestions will again increase the probability of contact for your world globally, depending on how far you are willing to go. And again, once again, I stress, you do not have to take these actions. It is up to you and your free will. For some of them may be too challenging for some of you, may take you too far outside your society, and therefore you may not be willing to necessarily partake of these actions and these suggestions initially. But I do guarantee that if you are willing to do so, the vibrational frequency of your alignment to the Interstellar Alliance and the probability of contact will increase geometrically. So it is up to you, as always, with your free will. As we begin this new cycle of information, as this new cycle of actions begins to unfold, we invite you to ponder deeply all we have said before, taking into account all that you have learned, all that you have been willing to apply in your lives with regard to the formula and your understanding of metaphysics and spirituality that we have shared with all of you, and to streamline it now in this new cycle to make it a daily understanding, a daily application, a daily usage in every situation and circumstance in your life to truly accelerate you into this new cycle, beginning now with this year of 2024. In return for the gift you are giving us in allowing us to share this with you and the subsequent actions that are to come, I ask, in what way may we continue to be of service to you? Please begin with your questions and dialogues if you wish.
Good afternoon, Bashar. Thank you for answering my question. In relation to the idea of the frame rate of reality shifting billions of times per second, but then also the idea of infinite versions of reality, does that mean each individual one of those billion frames per second, there is an infinite amount of those individual frames, such as for me, let's say that this here is a frame, but at the same time, there is an infinite number of frames of my own version of the Earth reality. Obviously, like there will be 8 billion people experiencing their individual frame, but then there's also the frames of perception from like the trees and the plants, the fishes, the animals, etc. Or is it more so that from my perspective there is the infinite frames, but then from other people they don't exist within my frame until I observe them? Thank you for answering my question. Good day.
Yes, to a degree, but understand that even though there are infinite frames in all the directions that you mentioned, not all of them are relevant for your particular timeline experience. So while they all exist, you only experience a finite number of them in any given lifetime or timeline. And you only experience those who have frames that, as you say, you are willing to observe, willing to interact with. You create similar frames that allow you the experience of interaction, even though you're not actually in the same frame. All right, good day, good day.
Good day, my friend. So exciting to see you again. All my love. Um, Bashar, um, I've heard it described by the channel. What was it? Niagara Falls through a garden hose. Acting on the formula, that last part, remaining in a positive state no matter what happens. I've noticed there's some physical uh, feelings I get. What is this? Certain things are dissolving, and physically speaking, I'm feeling like almost like a cobweb on my face, some certain things. Is this natural?
It can be one of the effects of allowing your neurological net to realign itself and be upgraded to receive higher frequency energies. You will get used to it.
Okay. Very good, very good. And and I think that's pretty much about it. With that, thank you very much. All my love, and all my love to everyone else.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Aveo.
Aveo.
Hello, Bashar. This is Erin from Toronto. I had a question about genetics. My question is, I am Caucasian and my husband is Persian, and we just assumed that the dominant genes would be his since he has black hair and brown eyes and dark skin, that our child would look like him. But my son looks exactly like my dad, like to the degree to which my dad showed me a photo of himself as a baby and it was identical to my son. And I wondered, is this a choice made by the child themselves? Does this have to do with their DNA or their life choices? Is it that they're trying to align more to my familial lineage, or is it just genes? Does it just happen the way it happens? I feel like there's more significance here. I would just like to have a bit better understanding. Thank you so much.
It's all of the above. The spirit will choose the genetic makeup that will serve the life path best. So therefore, it can be an expression of what will work for the spirit in this particular lifetime, and therefore they choose the genes that will be arranged in such a way as to allow them the expression and the idea of the, one moment, strongest connection to the future hybrids possible.
Good day. Hi, Bashar. I'm very grateful for this interaction.
All right, please speak up.
Yes. I've always felt very disconnected and overwhelmed, in this world since I was very young. And I started for a very young age, questioning, look for the sense of existence. Like many others here, I have a long story of pain, suffering, search, learning, and healing to try to connect with God or enlightenment, if we can say this word. So 13 years ago, I found you. And I've been following the formula, practice it along with other remission sleeps. And a couple of years ago, I finally found some clarity, peace, healing, purpose, my mission, when I then decided to go back to South America and work in communities, and I took then one of my sons. And 6 months later, he passed away unexpectedly. So I felt lost, disconnected, like I went backwards again. So my question is related to, at the moment, I don't need anything. I don't want to manifest anything. My question is actually, how can we end the suffering of our minds and be one with God?
By understanding that you have lost nothing but gained everything. These things happen by agreements. The timing of your son's passing is something that can actually aid and assist you in stretching your mind towards spirit by reaching out to him, by connecting to him more strongly, and not feeling it as a loss, but feeling it as an expansion. For you exist in spirit alongside him as well, eternally. So if you begin to rearrange your point of view and understand that you are there with him and that he is always with you, then you can expand your understanding, not feel it as a sense of loss, and move forward with purpose.
So your opinion, is grief a form of attachment?
It is to some degree an attachment to the idea that you have lost something, that something is missing from your life. Now, we understand that a brief amount of it can be healthy for you to let go of that idea, but the longer you hold on to grief, it actually prevents the spirit from reaching out and communicating with you. Because the idea is that when they attempt to do so, it will remind you of them, and as long as you remember them through the idea of loss, you will always feel the connection as more grief, rather than opening up to the idea that it is a communication coming from them.
And is anything we could say to help me in this process?
I have just given you the understanding. Listen once again. You have to understand that anytime you feel grief, it may be representative of an attempt by your son's spirit to communicate to you. But as long as you look at the idea of his death as a loss, you will experience the communication as grief, instead of opening up to the idea that he is attempting to help you by stretching your consciousness and retraining your consciousness to focus on him in spirit.
Okay, thank you. If I haven't made another question, in relation to the Ascended Masters, how can they help us as an individual or collectively? Should we follow their guidance, or can we connect it spiritually with them?
All ascended masters can be connected to. Anytime that you feel a connection to them, think of them, you are connecting to their frequency. But all ascended masters are basically telling you the same message. It is not about following them. It is about understanding that you have the same potential as they do, to be like them, to know that you are like them, to realize your full potential. So the idea is that they act as reflections of what you can achieve. They act as reminders of the power that you have within you. So if you take it to heart and understand that they're simply showing you what you can also be, then again, you can move forward with purpose and passion.
If I may, another question. So is it true that people are really channeling them as well?
Sometimes you have to have the discernment to tell the difference when it may be a true channeling or when it may simply be an aspect of the channel's own consciousness, which sometimes can still be positive. but you have to have the discernment to know the difference between when it is connecting to a different being, an ascended master, a spirit guide, an extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional source, or when it may simply be something that represents the channel's aspect of a different aspect of their own personality. The idea fundamentally is, if the information is positive, constructive, self-empowering, then it doesn't really matter where it comes from, as long as it benefits you in your life and allows you the opportunity to exercise your free will to be who you are. If it is in any way, shape, or form controlling or restrictive in that sense, then it is obviously, more often than not, an aspect of the channel's personality that they have yet to integrate within themselves.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bashar.
You are so welcome. Aveo.
Aveo, thank you.
Hello, Bashar. I understand the concept that there is only me in the room, meaning that I have my own production house creating my own movie. But what about other people who also play a part in my movie? Do I have a say as to how they react, behave, or interact with me? Or all these are still their own decisions at the soul level? Meaning that their world and my world actually share the same storyline, or separate? For example, can a man actually create a reality in which his ex-wife actually moves back and falls in love with him all over again, while his ex-wife in her world, in her movie, she has actually moved on and married someone else? How separate or overlapped are these different worlds?
It can happen that way, although again it depends upon how it serves a purpose in that life path to experience those things. The idea is that you make agreements with others, agree to different kinds of storylines, as you say, but you still experience your version of those stories in your reality. By agreement, others will seem to share the same reality, even though they are in their own reality, perceiving their versions of you as you are perceiving your versions of them. So you are creating your versions of them, and it will be based on your belief systems about what you need from them, which can be either slightly or very different from what they may perceive in their reality of their version of you. It just depends on how closely aligned the different versions have agreed to be in terms of what you experience with each other in creating those representations of each other in your own realities. But again, sometimes it can diverge quite readily, quite far, and sometimes it will stay very closely aligned, depending upon the agreement you have made and what purpose it serves to either remain aligned or misaligned. Good day, good day.
Ha'ata Bashar.
Ha'atu.
Ha'atu. Wow. I feel great. It's a great day.
All right.
I feel like we have had a conversation before, maybe telepathically. I was standing out in my yard and I had just listened to some of your stuff, and yeah, I could feel something. I don't know if it was that me making it up in my head with my...
It is your higher mind, and also in combination with us, because we have many conversations with people on the non-physical realm before we have them in the physical realm. But the idea is that it always involves your higher mind to gain practice for you in understanding that your higher mind can answer all the things we have been answering for all of you for all this time as well.
Cool. I do want to ask some specific questions. One, I'll just start off with one of them is about I'm a farmer. I work with the land, and I heard you talk about the Lyrians, and I just want to, I guess, talk more about like water, plants, animals, the energy of those things, and my relationship with them, and how I can evolve those. Like, I know water bending is a thing. There's a lot of things that I've seen in movies, like superheroes can do, and I just get chills when I see those things. So I feel like they're possible.
All of them happen in spirit. All of them can happen in spirit. Some of them can be brought into the physical realm if you allow yourself to see the physical realm as an extension of spirit more strongly. Not all of them are relevant for your particular life path, but certainly by allowing yourself to understand yourself as an extension and an expression of nature, as nature, rather than being in nature, then you can blend more fully with the idea of the consciousness of nature in all its forms, plant and animal, and elements, and allow yourself more efficacy with the communication with those particular forms of consciousness as well. Being a farmer, in a sense, you have a head start on this because you understand how to work with the land. Allowing yourself to understand everything that's physical as being an extension and an expression of spirit can also help you accelerate your ability to receive and send communications to all the elements we have mentioned.
Cool. And does that include the Sasquatch or other
all things in nature? All things in nature.
So are the Sasquatch aware of me?
They can be. They are aware of many humans individually, especially those that work the land. So peripherally, they can be aware of you, though it may not be extensive.
What is a way to sort of invite them, I guess, or
go into the forests where it has been said they inhabit, where it has been said they visit, and allow yourself to begin the cryptic meditations that Willa has delivered to all of you in the past. Sitting with your back to a tree, near a source of water, listening to the water, and extending your mind deep underground into the root system and the mycelial network of the tree, and beginning to blend with the communication between the trees in that way can also connect you to many forms of nature, including the elementals and including the idea of Sasquatch. Begin those kinds of meditations on the cryptic journey, and it can improve your ability to perceive and receive communication from many different kinds of beings that exist that many people on your planet don't even know about.
Cool. And teleportation, is that possible with my physical body, or do I need some sort of ship?
No, you do not need a ship. You have to understand that you're already teleporting all the time. That's how you move. You jump from moment to moment. You teleport from moment to moment. It's just that you do it so smoothly and so quickly, you don't even know you're doing it. So getting a deeper understanding of the fact that you're already doing it, because every moment you shift to a different reality, literally a different universe, you are teleporting constantly. Even to have the experience of a movement like this requires teleportation through billions of different parallel universes. So if you understand more deeply that you're already teleporting, you can increase your vibration to be able to perceive the rate at which you are already teleporting to create the sensation of movement, which is an illusion. And therefore, by increasing your frequency, you can match the frequency more readily of how you are shifting from reality to reality and perceive that you are always teleporting. And in doing that, you can learn to teleport in different ways that are more perceivable by those around you. But again, it depends on whether this is relevant for your life path.
Cool. And I've heard you say before that when the earth changes, it's not the earth changing, it's me shifting into different versions of earth.
As I just explained again.
Yeah. So what is my desire to regenerate the earth, to regenerate the land, if it's me shifting into something different?
The desire is to be a living example of the state of being and the actions that go along with that state of being that allow others to see in you how they can also choose to shift to versions of Earth that are more reflective of what they prefer.
Cool. And one of my last questions here, I want to get a little bit more specific about my personal myself. I know that I also listen to Abraham Hicks, so I know that in my vortex there's this all around me is this pure, massive well-being, and I know that there are some thoughts that may be foreign beliefs that resist me allowing who I am to flow, and those thoughts are what I want to get at so that I can, I guess,
All right.
identify them.
Well, the easiest way to do that is ask yourself how it serves you to hold on to them, because you don't hold on to anything that you don't believe serves you. So you have to look for the structure and the nature of what the belief is telling you and realize that you may have a belief that is causing you to be afraid to move forward because the belief is telling you that if you do let go, something worse will happen. So you have to find out what that belief is saying to you to see that it's nonsensical and not a fact. It's just a story.
And is that something that you're able to see in me? Or how do you?
I can only tell you how to allow yourself to discover it. Because again, this goes to the motivational mechanism. Listen carefully. You hold on to anything you believe serves you, even if it's a negative thing, because you believe the alternative would be worse. So you'll hold on to even something negative if you believe it's the safer alternative. So you have to find out what you're afraid might happen if you move forward in the direction you say you prefer, but find that you're not moving forward in that direction. It can only be because you have a belief that says moving forward in that direction would be worse than staying put, no matter how negative staying put actually would be. So you have to discover within yourself what you're afraid of might happen if you move forward.
Okay. And when I live in Hawaii, is there
Yes.
anything here, maybe around my location, that?
What island are you on?
Say that again.
What island are you on?
Maui.
All right. You understand that Haleakala is the heart chakra of the world, yes?
Yes.
The heart vortex. Allowing yourself to meditate in the understanding will open up your heart and open up communication to many different forms of elemental being.
Cool.
Does that serve you?
Yes. What about my last question is about you.
Yes.
Do you have human friends? Do you ever hang out on Earth?
I have not
Do you
set
wanna be
foot
friends?
upon your planet at this time. My ship is in your atmosphere, but I have not set foot upon your planet at this time. We consider all humans potentially to be our friends if they are willing to be so.
Well, I am, and it'd be cool to hang out.
There may come a time when that is possible physically. For now, it is not yet the time.
Okay. And my last question that comes up is about dragons.
Dragons are a projection of a certain interdimensional form of consciousness that is interpreted in your reality as the form of a dragon. That's not how they look in their own reality, but it is an expression of ancient wisdom and great power that takes that form because that's the form that your physical reality best interprets those interdimensional forms of consciousness.
Cool. Okay. So the
Thank you. You said that was your last question.
Yes. Thank
Then
you.
we thank you for your interaction, our unconditional love to you. Aveo.
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar, and thank you for everything you have offered us. I so appreciate you. I would like some clarification on balancing points 3 and 4 of the formula. Point 3, acting on my excitement without any insistence, assumption, or expectation of what the outcome should be, and staying in a positive state of mind. So my clarification is I get how I should let go and allow things to unfold and trust that the abundance that I'm seeking in this specific example can come from many different ways. But I'm not sure how I can stay in a positive state of mind without some belief that it is going to work, that I am going to have my needs met. So, how can I both have no insistence that it's going to work and yet stay in a positive state of mind? Can you expand on that for me?
Yes. First of all, understand that by letting go of insistence, that is a way for opening up to receive what you truly need. Because insisting on things may actually close the door to receiving what you truly need. Because your insistence may be saying, I know what is best, I know what I need, and maybe you don't. So the idea is to drop the insistence, because insistence limits your ability to actually receive what you need. I will remind you of the 7 basic needs of life. You need air, you need water, you need sleep, you need food, you need some form of shelter or positive constructive environment that allows you to thrive. You need the idea of connection or relationship with something, whether it's a person or not. And you need the idea of self-creative expression, the idea of acting on your passion. If you say you have needs that go beyond those, then they are not needs, they are insistences on something that may not be what you need, but may only be representative of what your ego system wants. And it may not be aligned with what you truly need. If you receive the 7 things we just outlined that are the true needs in life, your life will be fulfilled. So you have to pay attention to whether the idea of what you say are your needs are actually really wants, or are they truly aligned with the 7 needs we just outlined. The idea of staying in a positive state is, again, your ability to experience whatever happens in a more constructive, beneficial way. Why would you want to stay in a negative state and experience things in a negative way, in a destructive way, in a way that doesn't serve you positively? Staying in a positive state is allowing you to interpret any experience and glean from that experience and extract from that experience something that will move you forward in a positive direction, that will allow you to feel more connected, more self-empowered. So the question is, why wouldn't you choose to stay in a positive state no matter what happens, knowing that if you do stay in that positive state, you'll be able to get a benefit out of whatever's going on? Even if you recognize that what manifested is something you don't prefer, that's just an objective observation. Staying in a positive state will allow you to understand how that manifestation can still serve you in a positive way by being there. Instead of succumbing to the negative state, that will only make it impossible for you to realize how that manifestation could serve you in a positive way. So it's up to you to decide what you actually prefer to experience, and know that you're making a choice to be in a state of being that will allow you to experience them in the way that you prefer, as opposed to experiencing things in the way that you don't prefer. So it's just simply a choice you make based on how you would like to experience things. And by understanding what your true basic needs are, and not calling things that are egotistical wants things that you actually think you need, when in fact you may not.
Hey, Bashar.
Good day.
Hi. I am so excited by this. I really thank you for this.
It is our passion and our pleasure. What would you like to discuss?
Well, my personal growth is really important to me. I've known that since I was a little kid. And it led me to you and excuse me, I'm senior moment.
The formula?
The formula, thank you. Yes, and I've taken to the formula, and I have a really good understanding of it. And it's also, I have the law of attraction information as well.
Yes, well, the law of attraction, in a sense, is built into the formula as well. Because, again, what you put out is what you get back.
Yes, I have discovered that. My life has taken a terrific change. I'm basically happy all the time, thanks to this.
Yes. We are basically happy all the time as well.
I like to hear that. Yes.
Um, I guess my question I have, is there anything there that I may not be aware of that maybe I don't know. I don't actually know, but I'm just
If you
wondering if
say
I'm
that you are happy all the time, why would you assume that there is something else you need to know? And why wouldn't you understand the formula enough to know that if there is something there, the reflective mirror component of it will bring it to your attention in the appropriate time?
I actually agree with you on that. I guess sometimes I get so excited that I forget where my passion takes me. But I do follow my passion. Like you, I'm an artist, so I do know what it's like to allow my creativity and my imagination
All
sometimes
right.
get the better of me. But yes,
All right. Well, as long as you always course correct, as long as you're always aware to check yourself, you'll be fine.
thank you, thank you. Uh, The only other question I have at this time, it just dawned on me that like the work you're doing to with First Contact, I was really happy to hear what the announcement you made about the next coming year. My question is like what do we on this planet at this time, what do we offer in this exchange?
Many different things, many different perspectives, ways of experiencing life, ways of expressing your creativity that are different from ours. It enhances and builds and adds to our understanding of all the different ways that all that is has of expressing itself. Plus, again, the idea is that in the suggestions that we will deliver in the upcoming transmissions, we will see how you use your creativity to perform these acts for all those who are willing to follow these suggestions, take the actions, and increase their vibrational frequency to be that more aligned with the interstellar alliance. You will come at it from a unique point of view.
I like that. Uh, I listen to a lot of information for, like near-death experiences. I like to give an understanding of what's waiting for us on the other side when we go back to where we came from.
Yes, but remember that you are already there.
Yes, I am quite aware of that.
All right.
I'm working on my relationship with my inner being and source, building on that relationship. But I do understand that I come from the perspective of an illusion
Yes.
and going back to something real. Uh, and I actually do enjoy that fact. I'm looking
Yes.
forward to that.
Yes, it doesn't diminish the effect of the illusion because the illusion has its purpose, allowing you experiences that cannot be had purely in spirit, and thus it expands you and allows you to grow. So just by understanding it as an illusion does not in any way, shape, or form discount the experience as important.
I've discovered how important our experience here is to where source is.
Yes.
Yes. Um, I also came to the conclusion that we are basically energy that
Yes.
has consciousness.
Well, yes, consciousness is energy. Energy is consciousness. Existence
Right.
is conscious.
Well, I got to say, Bashar, I really do appreciate this. I don't actually have any other questions, but I'm grateful to having this time with you.
As are we. We thank you for the co-creation of the interaction, and again, bid you an exciting path and journey. Aveo.
Aveo.
Hello, Bashar. Recently, my girlfriend left me after 15 years for all the mistakes and that I have done for the last years, and she was right. But through the whole process, I've changed, and I saw that I really love her, and I would like to show her that. And I have really changed, and now I think I will be the best candidate for her to spend the rest of her life with me. Isn't the universe supposed to give me another chance, another shot with her? Thank you.
The universe gives you all sorts of chances, but it may not necessarily be with what you consider to be the same person. Because if there is something else that is now more representative, someone else that's now more representative of the changes you have made in your life, then if that person shows up in your life, you won't care that it's not the same person, because that person will feel correct, because that person is a reflection of the changes you have made as a perfect match. So don't insist that you know that you are the best candidate for that other person, because you don't actually know that for a fact. And it can be preventing you from actually attracting who you need that would actually be the best relationship for you. So just allow yourself to know you have changed. Allow what needs to come in, because even if it looks like the same person is coming back to you, it's not the same person, because if you've changed, they will have to change to match the changes in you as well. So don't insist on the look of who the person is. Allow yourself to simply let in the person that is actually the best representation of the changes you've made within yourself.
Hi, Bashar. My question is about variations of gender expression and the new species of humans that you speak of coming through. Currently on the planet, there's a lot of anger and violence projected towards people who are not cisgendered. And I was wondering if you could speak to us about transgenderism and variations of gender expression and how we can better understand each other's differences. Within this, I'm also curious about this new species of human that you speak of coming through, and if in that evolution we are moving beyond the old understandings of sex and gender, and if we are collectively moving towards a more androgynous expression. Thank you so much.
To some degree you are. You will not lose the idea of the genders, but you will be more allowing of the understanding that spirit is everything and nothing, and can be anything in physical terms. So the idea of transgender people is a way of showing humanity that it can actually choose what to be in a far wider range of expressions than it may have previously thought, that it is more fluid than it thinks, that it is more capable of expressing itself in a multitude of ways than previously thought. So therefore, you have to look at the idea that it is an expression of spirit, that spirit can be anything and everything, and it can serve humanity to be far more flexible in its understanding of what it can be.
Hello, Bashar. So nice meeting you.
And you as well. What would you like to discuss this day?
Oh, my questions would be about my role as a first contact specialist. I know that as a child, during the night, I was taking part in the hybridization project. And also that nowadays, during the nights, I'm on the spaceship with the hybrid children. So I'm really looking forward as working as a first contact specialist. Why is it that I cannot remember anything from my experiences during the night?
You obviously remember something, or you wouldn't be having this question. So the idea is that there is a timing to remembering these things, and the timing at which you remember them is used as a barometer to understand how close contact actually is. So it's all right. Just move forward by acting on the formula, acting on your passion, and you will allow your life to unfold in a way where you will arrive exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be there, interacting with exactly who you need to interact with, and remembering what it is you need to remember, but there's no point in remembering it before you need to remember it. It's not time yet for you to remember a lot of the things you were taught on the ships, because those things don't come into play until you're actually interacting with the hybrid children on Earth.
Yes. And I sense that, well, I'm communicating with them telepathically.
Yes.
And I sense every now and then in the daytime, they are with me in the room, in my living room. And then sometimes, well, I can't see them, but I sense them. And sometimes I visualize, or it just is an impression that they start materializing in my
Yes.
presence. So that's the way it might happen.
Yes, in a sense, because what they're doing is coming into a slightly altered version of physical reality that is just beyond the normal physical reality that you consider to be your physical reality, to entice your senses to stretch and perceive them in that reality. And the rate at which humanity can do that also is used as a barometer to understand how close those two realities are coming together when you start to be able to perceive what's in that reality and make it one reality, shift yourself to that version of reality where they also exist, because they exist in a slightly different version of physical reality than you do. So being able to sense that and see them more and more and more physically as time goes on means that those reality vibrations are merging and you're coming closer and closer and closer to the point of contact.
Yes, because during the daytime, I often hear myself saying, "Oh, yes, you're welcome." But then during the night, when I'm going to the toilet, I think, "Well, no, not now." So
Yes.
during the night, there's still a fear inside of me to meet them. Is that a problem to meet them in the daytime? Do I have to heal that?
Again, the idea is to look within yourself for anything that you are afraid might happen if you move forward in your passion and deal with it and let it go. Because again, remember, some of it is just unfamiliarity with their higher frequency that may cause your physical body to go into survival mode, because exposure to their frequency can make your physical body believe that it's actually dying. And that's why it goes into survival mode, which can feel like fear. So it's not about the idea even necessarily that you have fear beliefs to let go of, other than the idea that you have to get used to a different vibration that your physical mind and physical body interprets as death. Because a lot of the higher vibrations of interdimensional beings operate on a very similar frequency to that of spirit. And so your physical body can interpret that interaction and that frequency as if it's dying. And that may be mostly what you're feeling. You'll get used to it if you remove any fear of death that you have by understanding that you're already in spirit and that physical reality is just a projection from spirit.
Yes. Yes, and my highest excitement is channeling, going into the channel state. I do that a lot, as often as I can.
All
But then
right.
I notice I only channel my higher self. It really feels like me. But my highest excitement is to channel other species. Why
But you
is
start with your higher self. You start with your higher self, like many channels do, to get you used to the idea of operating on that level. If and when you start channeling for other people, then it may need to call in other beings. But the idea is that when you channel for other people who have questions that they want answers to, that grounds the information and energy in them and pulls it through you so that you don't have to think about it. But you're getting used to the state by dealing with your own higher self first. This is common.
Okay, yes.
So the way to advance it is to channel for other people who have questions to which they really desire the answers. Then it may call in other kinds of beings.
And I already do that, but I
All
guess
right.
I'm not ready for the next step.
That's all right. And remember, there's nothing wrong with the information coming from your own higher self. It's every bit as capable of any other dimensional being or extraterrestrial in delivering information that can help people. So you may not necessarily insist on having to go beyond that. Just allow the information that serves people to come through from whatever source it needs to come through. Don't insist that you have to connect to other beings if your higher self is doing the job.
Yeah, clear.
All
Yeah,
right?
yes.
All right. Does that serve
Can I-
you?
Yes, that does serve me. Can I
All
ask
right.
more, please?
Yes.
It would be about red light synchronicities and limiting beliefs. My highest excitement is manifesting an alien contact center. And in the Netherlands, we have an option to a beautiful piece of land next to the forest. And that would be a great place for that alien contact center.
All right. I cannot comment on this at this time. Just follow the formula and see what happens.
Okay. And how do I make the difference between red light synchronicity or a limiting belief or a lack of trust
With
inside me.
honest self-examination as to whether you are dampening the excitement or whether the passion still remains, but you're unable to act on the opportunity. Usually, red light synchronicity allows the passion to act on an opportunity to remain, but removes the capability of acting on the opportunity, whereas limiting beliefs can actually make the passion diminish.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Yes,
All right?
thank you so much. Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
We thank you for your interaction. Aveo.
Aveo, thank you so much.
Yes.
Hi, Bashar. My name is Lisa, and I'm asking a question regarding your comments that there is no hole or center core in the Earth. And I know that there was a question about this a while back, and you said no, that there was no hole in the center of the Earth. However, Richard Byrd, in his personal journal, when he had his expedition on behalf of the United States in Antarctica, put in his notes that there was a hole in the Earth, and he actually flew his plane in this hole and actually met with aliens. I wanted to know more about your opinion on this and if you had any comments on that. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Yes, we have discussed this before. Many people, when they think they have actually entered the physical Earth, have simply gone through a portal into another dimension. They do not perceive that they have done this and therefore think that what they're experiencing is physically inside the Earth, when in fact it's in a different dimension altogether.
Hello, Tadeo.
Nania.
So we have lots of great questions from our viewers.
All right.
So the first one is, this person is asking, I believe you've mentioned that we will not be able to see the other train tracks somewhere around the year 2050. As there is a high probability of having a mass contact event between 2026 and 2027, how will the realities who do not experience contact perceive this event? Will they look back on this instance in a similar way we look back on the Roswell event, very much in denial?
It depends on the person. There is still an opportunity in the upcoming events to have a particular perspective of it, or no perspective at all, not even knowing that it's happening. There is still the possibility of a range of reactions to it because you are still seeing other people's choices. So for a while, different people will respond or react in different ways or not even be aware that it's happening. These things will start slowly, in phases, subtly, and not everyone on your planet may even be aware that it's occurring. But the different reactions from those that become aware of it may also exhibit a wide range from acceptance to disbelief to total non-acceptance. So again, there is still time for people to make choices about how they relate to the idea of open contact, and you will see a number of different reactions and responses to any particular UFO events or contact events for a few years to come.
Okay. This person says, I was wondering if the first major contact event will happen in dream form. I feel like more people would be open to the idea that since they are in a dream state. I'm aware that a lot of people are already making contact while dreaming and just don't remember it. But will we have a dream we remember which will unlock the door to making physical contact?
That is a high probability. It is common in first contact scenarios in many civilizations, including a high probability in yours, that the idea of widespread open contact will be experienced en masse in dreams before it occurs in physical reality.
Very interesting. Will open contact happen on a large scale, visible to everyone, ensuring that no one is left out?
No, because again, there are those who may choose not to experience it. It will happen for those who are willing and open to experience such a thing. So again, the scale of it will happen in phases, will unfold in phases, and those who are open to the vibration will experience certain aspects of it, and this will change over time and broaden over time. But there will be those who are simply unwilling to experience such things, and we have to respect that. Therefore, vibrationally, they will simply not be capable of participating in the experiences that others may be open to experiencing.
And what will be the impact on those with religious beliefs when we establish open contact? Will they resist, or will you assist them in gaining a deeper understanding of Jesus and God?
We will assist where we can, where people are willing and open to receive assistance. Again, there will be a range of responses and reactions based on people's beliefs, be they positive and or negative. And again, this range of responses and reactions will still exist for quite some time as you process what is going on, as you work through things and determine for yourselves which track you ultimately prefer to be on.
And how are you feeling regarding the current UAP issues with the US government? Will we make progress soon for disclosure and contact?
You are making progress. The term soon is relative. But again, progress will be made in a number of different ways, not even necessarily so much by your government, although there will come a time when they understand that there really is no other choice but to reveal what they know, at least to a large degree. Because the movements that exist in the public domain will have advanced farther at a certain point than the government's abilities to interact and expose the information that they are aware of. So it will happen as a multifaceted approach from different corners of different public interests and different public activities, and come together at a certain timing, again, through the window over the next decade or so.
And since it's the year one of Countdown to Contact, can you tell us more about the ET races that we could encounter, like Sasani, Pleiadian, Yael?
Again, it is most likely that those most similar to you, such as the Pleiadian civilizations, will be among the first that you will experience when open contact begins in earnest. Hybrid civilizations you will experience. Yael will likely be first because they will be the ones bringing the hybrid children to Earth eventually. My civilization, the Sasani, will not necessarily be first, but we will be in the mix further down the line, as well as other civilizations.
You've mentioned that a lot of ET races use similar ship types. We could, of course, reach out telepathically, but are there also physical differences in the ships we would notice, for example, between the triangular ships Pleiadian, Yael, Sasani use?
Well, again, yes, of course. You have witnessed many different types of ships that have many different kinds of functions, and different civilizations usually have types of ships that are relevant for them. A lot of civilizations will use the saucer-shaped ships. Many will use triangular-shaped ships. There is a kind of exchange that does exist between civilizations of some of the technologies, and so the use of different kinds of ships has become more mixed over time, with different civilizations acquiring the technologies of other civilizations. Many will use the cylindrical mothercraft or city ships because that is a convenient form, although some will also be spherical. But again, you can't always necessarily tell what civilization now because of the mixing of technologies. Though for the most part, Pleiadians will retain the idea of the classic saucer shape as you understand it, and our civilization and many hybrids will retain the general use of triangular ships because that is what is representative of our general technology.
And regarding extraterrestrial writing that some people see on the ship's exterior, when seeing the ships up close, what is that writing for?
The writing exists as a mark for the identification of ships in terms of their function. And it is, in a sense, read as a code vibrationally that is telepathically received by those who are sensitive to it to understand the function of the ship and its nature in terms of how it is telepathically connected to those piloting the ships. It is a kind of a signature vibration that contains a lot of information that others can download, so to speak, to understand the identity of the ship, the function of the ship, the function of the crew, the mission they are on. The writing can even change from time to time.
This person is curious about the energy and frequency where we will have first contact. This person says, I feel like I'm personally ready for that contact with ETs. Can you speak a little more on how we can embody, accelerate, and integrate for first contact?
Follow the formula as precisely as you can, as often as you can, to accelerate your vibration and make you more vibrationally compatible with the idea of contact.
And what are some suggestions for practicing how to change or alter our frequency to match those of entities like yourself? Will it be necessary in order to communicate during first contact?
Follow the formula.
Okay. This person is asking, is it possible for, or probable for some of us to witness humanity becoming an honorary part of the Galactic Alliance? At 21 years old, I'm hopeful that the advancement in technology and healthcare might make it a reality within my lifetime.
Yes, as long as an individual doesn't choose to leave the planet during the time of open contact, those, especially of a younger age, are highly likely to experience the idea of open contact and a relatively large chunk of the full spectrum of contact over time.
Okay. For me, this first contact is not really a science event or a fruition of a science fiction dream. It is a cultural event, sociologic, like in the film Close Encounter of the Third Kind. Can you speak to this?
It is a sociological event, first and foremost, because it will alter your entire society. And you must alter your entire society on your own in order to make yourselves more compatible with the idea of contact. So the idea is it is less scientific, although there will be some technological elements to it, some technological exchange, knowledge exchange, so on and so forth, knowledge given, technological ideas given and shared. But it is first and foremost a sociological event, yes. Your entire society, those that are willing and open, those that are shifting in the direction of open contact, will be very different from your society of today. So the idea is that, yes, primarily it is sociological.
Okay, and the idea of humans organizing for contact. In what shapes or form would you suggest or inspire humans to organize themselves so they can globally have a more joyful and exciting open contact experience?
Some of that type of information will be being delivered in upcoming transmissions that have to do with what we are preparing you for now. As we said, this is Countdown to Contact Year 1, and we will begin to make certain suggestions for actions and behavioral changes in members of your society that have to do with what we are terming the Interstellar Alliance sociological experiment, and it will be delivered to you in a variety of steps over time in the upcoming year. So some of those suggestions will be forthcoming in the upcoming transmissions.
You've recommended putting up a picture of an alien in our windows. I've had little children, and in speaking to them about contact, I'm not sure they're ready to see an alien in the window. Do you have other suggestions for the little ones?
Depending upon their age, your children are already exposed to many representations of ETs and other kinds of beings in their programming on television and in movies. You can simply be creative and imaginative and choose representations that you deem to be, shall we say, cuter than average, so that children can relate to them, and use those instead.
Okay, and when contact is made, what reactions do you anticipate from us?
Again, there will be a range of responses and reactions depending upon belief systems, willingness to be open or not to the idea that you are not alone. Willingness to be open to the idea of the kind of changes that would have to occur within you as individuals and within all of you as a society. So again, there will be a range of reactions and responses, and this is what we anticipate will occur at first.
And what qualities make us the best candidates for open contact?
Love, peace, creativity, imagination, and a willingness to be your true selves, a willingness to raise your vibration, a willingness to expand your consciousness, a willingness to connect to all that is in a variety of ways.
And could you tell me more about the sanctuaries you speak of? You mentioned people will be led to them by synchronicity. Could someone like myself prepare a space or the sanctuaries and set them aside? Can I be put on the list?
Again, people will be creating these sanctuaries through synchronistic opportunities, whether you yourself are involved in the creation of one or simply allowing synchronicity to lead you eventually to those that have been created by humans on your planet. It doesn't really matter. It is up to you to follow your passion as to whether or not you are actually finding a space and creating a sanctuary, or being open to being attracted to a sanctuary once they exist.
Is there only one non-physical source we call spirit or God? Or is there really many parts that make this an idea of one whole? I'd like to know if there is a God and what I have been chasing my whole life on earth.
You are separating the idea into this or that instead of this and that. There is one and there is all, and the one and the all are the same thing in different forms. There is one that becomes the all, that is the all, that experiences itself as the all, and there are the many things that together make up the one, but are each individually their own version, their own perspective of the one. Everything is made of God. There is nothing else to make anything from, and therefore God is everything. When people on your planet talk about the idea and the notion of God being omnipresent, you have to understand that it's not possible to be everywhere unless you're actually literally everything. Therefore, it is everything. It is every atom, every subatomic particle, every object, every molecule, everything. The space even in between the things that you think of as empty space, that is even made of God. There is nowhere where God, all that is, isn't. It is everything, it is everyone, it is everywhere, it is every when. All the things make it up, and it makes up all the things.
After one becomes enlightened, is there any steps along one's path of spiritual development, or is this awakening the last step?
Enlightenment never ends. There are always different levels to awareness and enlightenment and experiences of all that is. Even if someone imagines that they reach the so-called quote-unquote highest level of becoming one with all that is, becoming one with Source. There are still many versions of what it means to experience becoming one with Source. So even becoming one with Source is not the ending of enlightenment or awareness. It is infinite, goes on forever, never ends, there's always something else.
Okay, and can you please give examples of the idea of the illusion of power versus the power of the illusion? I would like to understand this concept better.
Many people on your planet fall under the illusion of power in the sense of thinking that their physical minds need to control things. They think of themselves as powerful when they find themselves able to manipulate certain events into a certain order that allows them to feel satisfied with what it is they insist on seeking. But the idea is to understand that physical reality is a projection of consciousness. In that context, an illusion doesn't mean it's not valid. It doesn't mean the experience is not real. But understanding that you are already creating your reality based on your belief systems, based on what you define as true for you, is being able to utilize the power of the illusion to your benefit by going with the flow, by not being in resistance, by not attempting to force things into shape, but by understanding how to allow them to automatically fall into place using your own natural current, your own natural control built into you, rather than attempting to artificially control things through the physical mind, which it's not designed to do. It is only designed to give you an experience of physical reality, not to control it. The idea is that the control is already built in to the choices that you made to experience, the challenges that you chose to experience in this lifetime to grow as a soul. So allowing the idea of the agreements you made to simply unfold in perfect timing and to respond to them in a positive way, acting on your passion, following the formula, going with the flow, not resisting the natural current that you are, is the way to use the power of the illusion that's already built into it, instead of falling under the illusion that you are powerful by exercising your physical mind to control everything, which is exactly the opposite of being in control.
And if we all have unique experiences of life on Earth, do we all see the same objects and colors in the same non-biased way? Do you, Bashar, see our Earth and objects' colors the same way we do? Or do you see everything as energy or some other state?
You may have a strong sense of agreement so that what you perceive in your reality is very, very similar to what someone else may be perceiving in their reality, and therefore have a common ground, in a sense. But the idea is that you do not perceive exactly, precisely the same thing as everyone else. You all have a unique perspective. We see things also very differently than you do. We see multidimensionally far more than you do at this point in your evolution. And therefore we see energy patterns. We can recognize those energy patterns as a type of language that allows us to understand how to perceive you and other beings in a very different way, on many different levels, simultaneously, even into the idea of perceiving parallel reality aspects of your being that you are connecting to, other civilizational vibrations that you are connecting to, other dimensional expressions of your greater being and your oversoul. So yes, we see you as much bigger than you see yourselves in a variety of ways and extending into a variety of dimensional realities.
And when we use our imagination to interact with our hybrid children, what type of connection is actually happening? When this person is saying, when they play out the scenarios in their head, do they know that the hybrid children know they're doing this and come around? Can you explain this process a little more, because it's not tangible in their reality?
The hybrid children are extremely telepathic, will often pick up on when you are thinking of them, will allow their imagination to vibrationally match the imaginary scenarios that you are picturing in your head. For those that are vibrationally compatible with the realities that benefit them, they will experience what you are imagining. For those that are not necessarily relevant to them, they will not necessarily experience those portions of your imagination. They may send back a representation of what it is that would be more likely represented by them. They can reverse the telepathy in that sense and allow you, especially in dream time, to have a more representative imagination scenario that is more in alignment with their vibration. So that can work in both directions.
And you stated in a session that new children on Earth are coming through upgraded in a way that they will be able to remember the connection much faster.
Yes.
Please tell me the age range of these particular upgraded children.
Generally speaking, most of them are in their 20s at this point, although new ones are being born all the time, and therefore there's a large age range below 20 years of age. It doesn't mean that anyone over 20 isn't also hybridized in the new way, part of a new species. But the overall average age is somewhere in the 20s of those that have been hybridized to the point where they are a relatively new species. That doesn't mean that they're all in alignment. It simply means they all have different capacities than you used to have as a species. It still depends on what they choose to do with it. It still depends upon the themes that they chose to explore as to what they are capable of recognizing within themselves, but they do have a slight advantage of being capable of remembering more of who they are as a spirit connected to Source. How they interpret it will be based on the themes they chose to explore.
And could you clarify how it is that the Sasani are one of the products of the hybridization agenda, but their physical future selves seem to also be participating in it, such as yourself? I'm curious if the version of the hybridization agenda that you perceive as the origin of your society is the same as the one that you're participating in. For example, you perceive your physical self as being physically involved in the creation of your own society. Are there versions of it that were created without the involvement of physical future selves? In a similar fashion, does Willa perceive that Daryl has channeled her in the past of her timeline, which will mean the information of the 5 levels of mastery was being used on Earth before they even invented it?
You are confused by the science fiction convention of future and past and time travel. The idea is to understand us not so much literally as future selves, but as parallel reality interpretations, parallel reality counterparts that all exist simultaneously with your reality. So yes, we are involved, but literally speaking, we are not coming from what you would consider to be your future in a linear sense. We coexist with you right now. So the idea is to drop the notion that we're in your future, because that's not how it works. The idea of the utilization of the term future selves is simply an application to represent that we are very much more advanced than you, which you usually chalk up to the idea of a future evolutionary being. But we exist right now. So the idea is we coexist with you and are participating with you. We are not coming from the literal future in the science fiction sense.
And also, the idea that the third entity is created when Daryl channels you or
Yes.
channels Bashar. And does that being have its own individuated soul?
Of a type, yes. We will not go into detail on this at this time because it can get a little complex. But of a type, yes.
Okay, and could you clarify the differences between the grays that you're referring to and the Zeta Reticuli?
As we have mentioned from time to time, there are many factions of grays. And the reason for this primarily is that when we talked about the idea of grays coming from a parallel version of Earth and other parallel realities, you must understand that there are a multitude of grays from different parallel realities that come through to different versions of Earth. So you have a mix of grays, in a sense, that come from different origin points, all interacting to some degree in what you consider to be your reality. So the grays that are connected to Zeta Reticuli are not exactly the same grays that are involved primarily in our creation, in the idea of the hybridization agenda. So it gets a little bit confusing because some can cross over from one agenda to another from time to time. But there are many factions of grays that come from many different parallel realities, all coexisting simultaneously in what you consider to be your timeline.
Okay, and is it accurate to say that extrasolar intelligent beings cannot develop the technology to reach Earth unless they have transcended aggressive world domination agendas and other fear-based and greed-based motivations? Does this imply that regardless of the circumstances on Earth, when they arrive, these beings will be altruistic ETs?
For the most part, yes. And again, remember that those that are engaged with you will set up a vibration that would make it less likely that anything that is vibrationally incompatible with your best interests would simply not find you. You would be invisible to them because of the vibrational state of those engaged with you that are operating on a much higher frequency.
Okay, and could you please explain the game Hexes written about in the book Shards of the Shattered Mirror by Daryl?
Yes. There is a playing field made of different hexes. You might call them electronically activated. And the idea is that the players standing on hexes have to, in some way, psychically or telepathically or synchronistically determine the pattern of the changes in the colors of the hexes that change from phase to phase, from moment to moment, so that when you move from one hex to another, you instinctively land on a color that moves you forward and benefits you, as opposed to eliminating you from the game. So, for example, if you move from one hex to another while all the hexes are shifting and changing in color, when the hexes stop changing, stop shifting, and solidify into a particular color that was different than what they were before, or similar to what they were before, whatever color it is that you have now stood on, whatever color happens to be in the hex you have decided to go to, determines your status in the game. So if you perhaps, for example, move to a hex that winds up solidifying into a gold hex, you may have won the game. If you stand on a hex that happens to solidify into a black hex, you may be eliminated from the game. Other colors may represent different status points in the game.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Are those who are attracted to your teachings a participant in the hybridization agenda?
They don't all have to be, but about 90% or above usually are.
Okay. And it seems as more of our consciousness expands, more is revealed. Does this mean that as a collective consciousness, if we match your frequency, we will be able to see you in physical form, or will we continue seeing only via our third eye?
You will ultimately see us in physical form if your vibrational rate comes closer to matching our frequency. In some sense, that is really what contact is all about. Because as we have said, those operating on a higher frequency have the qualities of spirit. And when exposed to those frequencies, your physical body may react to them as if you are dying. And that is where the fear comes from. But the idea is that as you raise your frequency and create less differentiation between physical and non-physical reality, you become more vibrationally compatible with our natural state and can allow your senses to begin to perceive us more solidly, more corporeally, more physically.
And this person asks, saying that they 2 days ago meditated and asked to travel with a UFO, and then read in the media the day after that a UFO was observed in the same area of Norway.
Yes.
Is there any link?
Yes. That was the UFO that that person visited. Whether they remember fully or not is not the point. But they were given an opportunity to understand through the media story that what they had asked for had actually occurred. In time, they may remember. The memories may unfold.
And about 28 years ago, this person astral projected to a triangular ship and communicated with a triangular headed being through the window. Was this Bashar's ship or something else?
Something else. We will not go into details at this time.
Okay. And what this person is saying, when they were younger, they had vivid dreams of their family house on fire and witnessing a UFO. These dreams are still very vivid, and in their research, they sense that they might be significant encounters. They're saying that they know they've been in contact with ETs, and they feel close to remembering, perhaps even Bashar himself, which is one reason they feel such a strong pull to join this transmission. Any insights you might provide that would be helpful in this situation?
This is indicative of communication with hybrid beings in the dream state, in the altered reality state. The house on fire represents the idea of what you're going through now in terms of breaking things down, burning things up, going from an old cycle to a new cycle, allowing the old systems to fall away, to burn away, and new systems to be put in place for your world and your reality to be refreshed and renewed. So the idea is that you are going through this transition. Sometimes it will be represented in a negative way, such as the burning of a house, but nevertheless, it is representative of a clearing, of a letting go of an old way, burning the old ideas out and allowing new ones to come in. So the idea is of a clearing and a preparation and a laying a foundation for a new structure, a new reality to take place in which contact can occur more easily. That is the communication that was given symbolically.
Nice. This person is saying in LA, her son and she spotted two silent triangular shapes with distinct circles in each corner, flying in the night sky from their hot tub. A friend's photo of a similar craft later led me to Bashar, raising questions about the origins of what they saw.
Yes, well, hybrid ships. Again, there's a lot of traffic around your planet. When you expand your consciousness, especially in a relaxed state, such as you achieved in your hot tub, a meditative state, your senses can then become more keenly aware of things that are going on around you that might have been invisible to you before until you allowed your vibration to raise by being in a more meditative state, which then gave you the ability to see some of the traffic that is moving around your planet all the time, especially the hybrid ships, since they are very close to the vibration of open contact, since it is the hybrid children that will be coming to live among you.
Okay, and here's another one. This person says, I had a fascinating flying vehicle encounter in October of 2023 in New York City. It happened around 7 a.m. in Manhattan, near the 14th Street Union Square area. I was out grabbing a coffee before work when, upon crossing a street, I noticed out of the sheer corner of my eye an object flying rather unusually low in the open between the buildings. It appeared large, silent, at a distance. I noticed that it happened to be heading in the direction of my workplace right before it disappeared from view behind the buildings. A block away from my workplace, I decided to stop and see if I could get a good look at what it was. Well, lo and behold, I did, only this time it then hovered and stopped in the open space as if noticing me noticing it and stopping by to say hello. If what I perceived was in fact extraterrestrial, may you share with me who that pilot was that was piloting that ship and where they from and anything more you can tell me about that?
It is a Yael craft. They did notice that you were noticing them. Having the coffee is symbolic of waking up, and they were basically recognizing that you were waking up enough to be able to perceive their ship, which was out of phase with your reality, and yet you saw it anyway. And so they noticed that. Their message, in a sense, was good morning. You are waking up.
This person is saying, I'm a science fiction fantasy author, and I'm always wondered if the worlds and characters that run around in my head are as real as I am, or are they only real as this reality? I have a hard time defining the world as an illusion because to me, illusions are fake and fake is meaningless or a lie. Would it be safe to view the world as more malleable and less fixed than we humans currently view our experience of it?
Yes. And again, you can have a different definition of the word illusion. It is not meant in the term to be fake. The idea is perhaps more auspiciously used as a projection of consciousness rather than illusion, if illusion doesn't work for you as a term. So a projection of consciousness can still create a virtual reality for you, and the meaning in it is what you put into it. The experience of it is real, and it gives you lessons, it gives you knowledge, it allows you to expand, it allows you to learn, it allows you to grow. So in that sense, the so-called quote-unquote illusion is useful as a tool, if you think of it that way, but perhaps it would be easier for you to use it in the term projection rather than illusion. The idea is that the imaginings are real in their own right to some degree in a variety of ways. It doesn't mean they have to be as concrete as you find your reality to be. But many of them may be, or they may be very close representations of a quote-unquote real, solid physical reality. They may be slightly different than you imagine them to be, but they could be close. Nevertheless, everything is real in some context, even if it's only real as a story. It's still real in some way, shape, or form, even if it's not literally played out physically in some parallel version of reality.
So maybe one of the ways to relate to this is the idea that since it's a projection of consciousness, it's more malleable.
Yes.
And it has more plasticity than we were originally taught.
Yes.
And similarly, whatever you experience is relevant to what you need to experience. So it, in a way, it doesn't matter if it's quote unquote real or not. Like,
yes.
For example, they found that if a person observes another person being hurt in a way that is designed to make the person think it's happening to them, their subconscious cannot distinguish between what is really happening to them and what they are just simply observing.
Yes, but you are choosing a very complex psychological example that is beyond what this person was intending. The idea is to look at it more from the science fiction point of view. For example, in your Star Trek, you have the character known as Mr. Spock. As we have discovered, we have never found yet the idea that beings that look exactly like them, what you call the Vulcans, physically exist, but the representation of Mr. Spock is that he is a hybrid. Hybrids exist. The idea of what you call the non-interference directive, the prime directive in Star Trek, where certain civilizations that have not evolved to a certain point are allowed to evolve to that point before they are contacted, that is an actual thing that exists in many civilizations, including ours. So the idea is that there can be a mix of things that do have concrete reality to them, physically speaking. There can be some things that are real in the sense that they are symbolic representations of other concrete realities, though the representation itself may not be literal. And there are some things that are simply literal as stories. And that doesn't make them any less real because they are real stories. But they're not necessarily concretely, literally real in the physical sense that you understand physical reality experiences to be. But anything you can imagine in some context is real, because you cannot imagine non-existence. You just have to be able to discern the context of the thing that you're talking about to know the difference between something that exists as an actual concrete physical reality and something that exists as an idea that's still real as an idea, but is not necessarily concretely literal. Although, I have to add the caveat that in spirit, anything you imagine can be created, literally exactly experienced as if it is physically concretely real. So you can, in spirit, conjure up Mr. Spock, literally. And a being can take that form for you and represent it for you, and you can interact with it as if you are interacting with a literal being that is known as Mr. Spock. But that's taking place in an extremely malleable reality such as spirit, where anything you can imagine can be manifest out of spirit material, so to speak. But it is not literally physically concrete in the way that you're experiencing physical reality now. But it will be as real as you imagine it to be, and will be the product of another kind of level of consciousness interacting with you. And in that context, just as real as anything, because the interaction and the experience will be real.
It's fascinating.
Yes.
And this person is saying they would like clarification on these two seemingly opposing ideas. One is that everything is a reflection of ourselves. And two, I hear you say sometimes to not take people's reflections personally because it has nothing to do with you. And it's just a part of their own journey. Can you clarify that?
Yes. Remember that you are experiencing your version of other beings. It doesn't mean they're not real. It's just that you're creating your simulational representational image of them and interacting with that. So what you are interacting with is your creation, but that doesn't mean you've created the actual being, the actual consciousness. The consciousness is real, and you're interacting with a real consciousness, but you're interacting through the filter that you're capable of manifesting that is the best representation of them that you manifest out of your own consciousness, out of your own energy, as an interface, so to speak. The idea of the second part of the question, read that again.
The idea that if someone the second person says something like your socks are orange and you know your socks are not orange.
Yes.
So you don't take it personally because you know it has nothing to do with you and it's part of their journey.
All right, well, this is about discernment, because the idea is that you can always listen to what someone has to say and decide for yourself whether or not their advice is something that you do need to apply. And that's why they have been attracted into your reality, because there is a lesson there for you. There is information there that would benefit you if you applied it in your life. But you also get to discern whether or not that's true. And therefore you can, if you are honest within your own self-investigation, know the difference between whether or not somebody that's been attracted into your life and says certain things to you is actually having information that would benefit you, or whether you simply have attracted them to be of benefit to them in some way, shape, or form, by understanding that what they're saying to you is not your issue, but theirs, that you could perhaps help them with by giving them another alternative way to look at what it is they are going through. So they're still in your life because you attracted them, but you may have attracted them to be of assistance to them in changing the way they're looking at things rather than them having information that would benefit you. But you have to give yourself the opportunity to decide which it is. You have to have honest self-recognition and self-awareness and self-discernment as to whether the information is for you or for them or maybe both.
Okay, and this question is about assisting those in despair. How would you help someone who says that he or she wants to die? This person says they work every day with people who have lost their illusion in life.
All right. We're going to keep this very simple. Tell them to lie down on the floor or on the bed, close their eyes, and say they are ready to leave, and have them count to 10. If they can still open their eyes when they get to 10, they're not ready to leave. They are here by choice. And if they truly were done with their lives, they would have left. They would have died in that moment. That's all it takes. You don't have to have any other kind of assistance if you're really at your timing to leave. So if they can still count to 10 and open their eyes, that's their first clue that they're not ready to leave. They have not finished what they came to do. So that's an easy way to tell whether you're ready to go, whether you're really ready to die, whether you're really ready to wake back up in spirit, or whether you feel you still have something to do in physical reality that can then give them the sense of looking for what that is, finding their passions, finding their interests, not being so hard on themselves, not judging themselves so harshly, so negatively. Stop treating themselves so badly and start waking up to the fact that they are aspects of all that is, that they are beautiful, that they are creative, that they are loving and loved, they are supported unconditionally, and what they say goes. So if they want to buy into all sorts of negativity, the unconditional nature of existence will support them in that negativity because it is unconditional. And you can teach them that since it is unconditional, so unconditional that it is even willing to support them in their negativity, there is no reason it wouldn't support them in their positivity as well. And they can decide to choose more positive ways of looking at things, more positive definitions, and those will be supported just as strongly by existence as the negative ideas they held to be true were supported as well. It's up to them, but first and foremost, you can show them that they're not ready to leave, because if they really were at the end of their lives, it would be as simple as lying down, saying you're ready to go, counting to 10, and you'd be gone.
Fascinating. Can you comment on, I know people sometimes are concerned about how they're going to die. And then there seem to be some people who are lucky enough to just pass away in their sleep.
Why is that lucky?
Yeah. Okay. So can you
remember, it's all about choice, and it's all about a learning experience, and it's all about what you believe to be true. So regardless of how the death occurs, it's going to be the result of something you believe to be true. It doesn't mean that you necessarily would have preferred it that way, but remember that once you have died and the soul is looking back on the experience, it will have the realization of why it occurred that way because of the belief systems of the physical part of its being, and therefore it will learn a lesson from that, that it didn't necessarily have to choose that, or that it did choose it for very specific reasons that may have more to do with others around it than itself. So it's going to be on a case-by-case basis.
So does that also mean that people who are like reaching the age where death could potentially happen, and they decide they want to program themselves that whenever their timing is, that it would be in a certain way that wouldn't be painful or something
Possibly,
like that?
Possibly. Again, it depends on how deep they dig into their belief system, how they're willing to learn the lessons they chose to learn, the challenges they chose to face in this life in a different way. They have the option of doing it that way, but that implies that they've learned something about their ability to create their reality. And that may be the whole point.
Okay. And so people who have a lot of fear of death, there seems to be two parts to it. One of them is the idea that actually, this is coming from the near-death experiences. People have this wide variety of experiences, but it's all really based on their belief systems, right?
At first, yes. But again, initially, when the belief system manifests when they are non-physical, they still get the opportunity to decide whether or not they prefer to continue to experience that or change it. And again, in non-physical reality, if they decide to change it, the change will happen instantly with no time lag. So they will learn immediately that it was the product of their belief system as to what they experienced upon the moment of their death.
And yet a lot of people, when they come back from a near-death experience, they don't seem to understand that. They're just convinced that the way that they experienced it is the way that it happens or something, or that it validates what they believe about reality.
Again, this may be true for some people, but many more people are beginning to learn the malleability of the experience in the near-death experience, what is common and what is not, and what is personal and what is general. They are beginning to learn. Again, like anything, you need to have a large amount of data to sift through to understand where the personal aspects are and where the collective aspects are that are common to most.
Well, it's very helpful that we're starting to understand more about death and get over our fear of it.
Yes, it is very helpful because, as we said, a lot of beings you may encounter in open contact will be of a vibration that would be similar to the idea of spirit. And if your physical mind can't come to terms with that vibration and lose the fear, then your body may react to these beings as if you are dying, being exposed to their energy. And that is what causes the fear and survival mode reaction within many people.
So that's very helpful.
Yes.
Now, this person is talking about having an obsession with money. And they say that sometimes they get obsessed with the idea of money and focusing on getting more. This preoccupation creates confusion about their true passion.
All right, stop. We are going to once again remind you that we have addressed this by expanding your definitions of abundance and not focusing only on money as the only symbolic representation you have of exchange and abundance and support on your planet. We will simply refer this person to what we have already said about it, and we will move on from here.
Okay. And this person is talking about they were following their excitement at the end of last year and went on a sabbatical trip to Thailand and Bali for 3 months. They tried to cut out contact with the old reality as much as they could by following their excitement, which led them to an amazing journey of self-discovery and multidimensional exploration. Now they're back in their hometown and they're faced with the elements of the old reality that still trigger them.
Then they're still reacting the same way, and they have not brought the Bali experience home with them. They have not stayed in that vibration for their own reasons. They need to examine their belief systems to find out what difference they are making between the Bali experience and their hometown that allows them to still react the same old way that they used to, instead of being transformed by the Bali experience and the vibration they were in there and bringing that vibration back to the circumstances in their hometown. Remember, it's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens that makes the difference in your reality. So why react the same old way just because things in the hometown look the same? Remember, the measure of change is not whether the outside has changed, it's how you react and respond differently even if the outside still looks the same. That is all we will say about that at this point.
Okay. And this person is asking, how can I fully let go? How can I be my full self, truly embracing my perfect puzzle piece and frequency?
Understand clearly and act upon precisely the formula. Period.
So helpful, actually. This person is saying they've been on this spiritual journey for some time, but they feel they've stagnated. They don't feel or receive messages from their higher self or anything.
Nonsense. Look to the synchronicity in your life. Don't define having to receive those messages in a certain way. Don't insist on a certain method of delivery. Synchronicity is everything in physical reality. Start looking at the interconnections and associations that exist in everything in your physical reality, and you will start to see synchronicity more clearly as messages from your higher mind. And remember that the primary message from your higher mind are those things that you are passionate about, because that's how your body interprets the messages from the higher mind, is as the sensation of excitement, passion, creativity, and love. So look to the synchronicities. They abound. They're all around you. Everything is an orchestration. Everything is a synchronicity. Just change your definition of what's going on around you and you'll see it more clearly.
Okay, thank you. This person is saying that a good friend of theirs died a few years ago, and sometimes when they're alone and in a quiet space, they like to talk to that person as if they're actually right there in front of them. Does he hear what I'm saying, and how can I know? Because I miss him so terribly.
Just know that he does, because it's easier for spirits to hear you than it is for you to hear the spirits. Remember, the idea is that they are now unbounded from time and space, and therefore talking to them, they get it, and they can be there with you. So you just have to open up to the understanding that they are, and you will begin to perceive them. But again, you have to raise your vibration to be more sensitive to the fact that they exist. You have to be open to receiving their communications without a definition that you have lost something. Otherwise, you will only perceive the connections they may be attempting to make to you as grief, and the grief will block them from being able to deliver those informational messages to you and block you from receiving it. So you have to let go of the idea that you've lost someone. You have to let go of the grief eventually so that you can be more open to receiving the messages that they have for you, and simply know that they will hear you when you talk to them in earnest from your heart. This will be the culmination of the questions for today.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much. And
we will now remind all of you about the upcoming transmission for the Interstellar Alliance Social Experiment, Step 1, that will be delivered next time, for we now have given you the ability to prepare for things that will be suggested, that are actions you can take, that are behaviors you can change individually and in society. Again, we remind you, you do not have to do the things we will suggest in this social experiment, but that if you do, your vibration will become more compatibly aligned with the vibration of the Interstellar Alliance and open contact. So it is up to you to decide what you prefer. So next time we will deliver Step 1 of the Interstellar Alliance Social Experiment in this Countdown to Contact Year 1. Be prepared if you are going to participate. Be open, be willing, be creative, imaginative, be loving to yourselves and all. Be connected, be aware, be awake. Our unconditional love to you all, and good day. Aveo. Now, at this timing, there will be no specific meditation, but we remind you of what we have discussed. This is a new cycle. It is time for you to prepare yourselves to take different actions that are bolder, more in keeping with the idea of things that are aligned with the vibration of the Interstellar Alliance in this social experiment. Again, we remind you, you do not have to take these actions. It is completely up to you, your choice, your free will. But in doing so, they will be challenging, and some of them may take you beyond what you are used to in terms of your interactions with human society. Again, you will not be breaking any laws, but you may be going beyond the bounds of what seems normal for many human beings. And the idea is that in doing this, you will create a frequency on your planet and within yourselves that aligns more fully with the Interstellar Alliance and the probability of open contact. In this countdown to contact Year 1 Interstellar Alliance social experiment, we will deliver different steps upcoming in our transmissions, one at a time, that will build upon one another. To help you prepare mentally for this, we give you now this idea of sharing what will be coming so that you can be ready to receive the suggestions we will give you and see whether or not you are willing to take the actions we suggest. We thank you for the co-creation and the opportunity to enter this new cycle with all of you. Our unconditional love to you all. Aveo, in service. Good day.